afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the internet's most sophisticated wrestling podcast, discussing the weekly aspects of it all, right here on
The Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast.
Well, Mr. Tiro, Christopher, happy 5th of July.
I am a real American.
Yes,
oh,
me as well.
Terrible.
Welcome everybody to the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast. The day after Independence Day. Watched Independence Day yesterday with the family. Always a good time.
That's cliche. All right, cool.
Well, you know, sometimes you just gotta. I mean, dude, we talk about wrestling. You're talking about cliche. We talk about wrestling all the time. Who's more cliche than wrestling? Especially WWE.
Yeah. Or AEW right now too. I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna put it past either one of them at the moment.
Yeah. There's definitely some competitive fire going on, man.
Yeah, shots fired over the bow by AEW, and I believe we have return fire from WWE. So it was an interesting week of wrestling. Seems some changes are going to happen here in WWE soon, and it seems like there's already some things that we haven't seen in a long time, like a curse word on Raw.
Oh my.
Ooh.
Well, let's set it up though. Let's set it up because that's the elephant in the room. Obviously, Monday Night Raw starts off with Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman in a Falls Count Anywhere match. And to be quite honest, before the big event, air quotes, big event, the match was working for me. It was, they were really going at it, and they were really they went into the crowd, were just beating the crap out of each other. And it felt like the typical setup of I'm going to spear you through the LED board.
Yeah, like you kind of see something coming. I wasn't sure if it was going to be the LED board or if it was going to be just the announce table. But I will give it to them. I was saying in our text message chat, those were some stiff shots they were both taking. Like they were trying to, I think, push it over the edge a little bit. And then the LED board stunt, I mean, it reminded me a lot of the Attitude Era. It reminded me of things we've seen in the past WWE do for publicity, and it worked. I mean, Chuck, who's not here with us tonight, he was legitimately concerned. Like he bought into it, and he admitted to it. He was concerned, and that's exactly what they were trying to do. Blur the lines a little bit. Now, obviously, you're not going to have all those different camera angles of behind the LED board if you didn't know exactly what was going to happen that night. So I appreciate the little bit of realism, but it was a stunt, and it was a good stunt, and it was done well. And both of those guys, kudos to them, pulled it off really well. It didn't look fake. It didn't look like it was crazy, like, watch your step, take your time. No, dude, it looked good. Like even the replay looked good.
I agree with maybe one exception. Okay, so for those of you who didn't watch, Braun Strowman spears Bobby Lashley into the LED board. The second they hit that LED board, it explodes. And that part of it looked absolutely spectacular. For those of you who complain about there not being enough pyro in WWE, what happens is as they hit the floor behind, they're trying to play the illusion that is the power for the entire stage, well, which we'll get to a little bit later as well. And everything back there starts exploding. I mean, but realistically, they're just setting pyro off. Now, where it didn't work for me is they probably could have laid off the pyro a little bit earlier, because that's what made it clear, like, it was shocking, and then the pyro's going off, and it's continuing to be shocking, maybe to the point where it's even pulling me out of it and going, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. I can't believe this is happening. But as the pyro keeps going, it's like, okay, well, hey, we wanted them to use pyro and they're using pyro,
Yeah. 2
And
years worth of pyro went
oh my
off that
gosh.
night.
And then, but so the best thing that they did at that point, though, for those of you who didn't watch, was they pulled to this really weird angle, like up in like the second, like the top level seats that's pointing down.
It's like a blind spot almost.
Yeah.
A blind spot behind the stage.
Yeah. No real direct audio with any announcers. They just kind of shut up, and they just, all it was like just hearing WWE officials and refs and medics just like freaking out and trying to get Bobby Lashley and Strowman figured out. And that was what it was. That angle, that's what got Chuck. Like it was just holding there and holding there and I was just,
nobody was talking. Yeah,
Oh.
nobody was talking at all.
and and the second he said that, I messaged right back. I'm like, you're falling into it. But I love it. I love the fact that he was falling into it because that's what they need. Again, that was so important for them to do stuff like that, because that's how you open an episode. That's how you open up an episode of Raw. I mean, that immediately just drags everybody in like, whoa, what just happened? Was that real? Was that not? I need to stick around and see what happens, because they're saying that they're gonna be giving updates, and everybody's playing towards it. All the wrestlers are like, I'm a wrestler and I put my body on the line day in, day out, and I can only imagine, what they're going through, and I only wish the best for them. Like, kind of breaking kayfabe almost in the right way for the story. So it's like breaking kayfabe, but it actually is kayfabe at the same time. It was good.
Yeah, it was well done. And again, it's like you said, it's something that they needed to do, and they've done in the past, and finally they pulled it together. And I think it's funny, it actually legitimizes how, I don't want to say afraid, but like how they're taking AEW seriously. Like they have to be, right? Because they're making moves that would tell you that they're like, oh no, we're actually gonna feel like you're a competitor, because otherwise they would ignore them completely. And they haven't been since the Hall of Fame, when they named AEW multiple times in a couple of different parts of the speech for DX. So it's fun to see. It's going to be interesting going forward. And it was a good kickoff to Raw, and it wasn't a bad Raw. It was pretty good. I mean, it definitely showed some different angles and different storylines that we haven't seen in a while. And it's dare I say, moving away from the PG world that we've been in for WWE for a while. Are we actually going to get out of the PG world?
Well, there's got to be
that line?
There's got to be that middle ground, right? Where you're like, well, we're not quite PG-13, but we're also not quite PG. Like, where they can kind of dip in and out. I mean, they go through the board, and clear as day, Corey Graves says, "Holy shit!" And I kind of stop, and I'm, and then I see you text. You say, "Did he just say holy shit?" And it's like, yes, he did.
Yeah, clear as day. Like, not even. And it was obviously scripted, and then they played along in the coming days where he's getting fined, and they actually kind of picked on him a little bit. Like Renee picks on him a little bit about it, but it again, well done, and it's another point of, are we like moving away from PG? Are they going back to that edgier version of WWE that we keep talking about that Fox wants? Fox is edgier, right? Fox has all those shows that are a little edgier, and it's always been a little bit edgier. So maybe WWE's leaning that way. Maybe like, all right, they just gave us hundreds of millions of dollars. That's what they want us to do. We're going to go that direction. We need to start now.
It's all that October setup, right?
Yeah. And fast forward to SmackDown, and we'll jump back and forth, I'm sure, but Kofi Kingston giving Samoa Joe the finger. Did you notice the weird camera angle that they did that with? Like, it's almost like they didn't want to show the finger, or there was a certain amount of time they could show him giving the finger.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
But again, something that they've been kind of not doing. They haven't been showing that. And now they let their babyface wrestling champion give the finger to a heel. So it was like, oh, okay, like they're doing these little things where they're layering it in that we might get edgier.
Yeah.
And they're gonna need to if they're gonna go up against AEW.
Well, one thing, and we talked about this earlier in the week, and I told you I was going to do this. And I know Christopher loves it when I tell him that he's right. I have to admit.
I mean, don't. Not only do I love it, but I expect it.
So. Wow. Yeah. I'm glad that we're not friends, by the way.
Yeah, we're not friends.
I have to admit, you're right about a lot of the story.
I know,
a lot of the story is definitely getting a lot better. And one of the stories that I thought paid off the most for me personally was the AJ Styles stuff. And specifically this week on Raw, where they just have, this whole we're pretending like we're telling you that Ricochet said this. I'm telling you, he's talking trash. He said this, and then it gets AJ pissed off, and he goes up and smacks him, and he smacks him back. It's like, it was good stuff. It's good stuff, man.
Nice stiff smack. Yeah, it was a good one. And AJ Styles is a great heel. I mean, he's a really good heel. He's a good face too. I'm not gonna say that he's a bad face, but he's another wrestler that he finds his groove when he's a heel. And we've been begging to put the club back together in some way or form. And this is the best version of the club we've had in WWE with AJ and Gallows and Anderson. I just kind of want them to do something with Balor for just a little while, because they're really not doing anything with him right now, and it'd be interesting if they kind of layered him into the club as well.
Oh yeah, especially you could do an angle. I mean, you could do an angle for control of the club that would just be epic. And we talked about that forever, forever.
Like a year and a half ago or
Oh
something.
man, it's like why? It's like right in front of you. It's on a silver platter. Take it, dish it out to everybody. It tastes delicious. It's delicious. Now, very quickly in Raw, though, things got annoying for me. And it's just this recent thing that they've been doing where apparently wrestling can't go on during commercials. So they keep having these weird things happen where, okay, you have, the New Day versus the Viking Raiders. And then all of a sudden Samoa Joe comes out and attacks Xavier Woods, which brings Kofi out, which then suddenly makes it turn into a 6-man tag team match. And
which
while
we've seen a bunch of, they've done that a bunch of times.
Right? They've done it a bunch of times recently, specifically because of this, because they don't want any wrestling to happen during the commercial breaks. And to me, that makes such little sense from the standpoint. I don't know. It's just, if you do it over and over and over and over again, and I'm telling you, for those of you who don't notice it, just pay attention. Just pay attention a little bit.
Because you've rung the bell now, so
you're gonna figure it out, because you're first gonna be like, hey, wait a second, why are there so many 2 out of 3 falls matches lately? Like, it seems all the time. It's like, 2 out of 3. It's because, they do 2 of the falls, and then, we're going to do a commercial break, and then we'll come right back and do the third one. Even the AJ Styles Ricochet, it's like, he goes to
false
pin him,
finish. Yeah, false
and
finish.
It's a false finish, and it's like, okay, we're going to go to commercial break, and then we'll redo it when we get back. It's like, I get it, and if you do it a little bit more, like, that one's a little bit better than the other ones. But still, nah, I'm kind of over it. It's kind of annoying me. Like, I don't, who cares? I mean, for me, I imagine what I would feel like in that audience. And I know I'm being a little hypocritical here, because I've said before,
You're going back,
you're
going backwards.
I've said screw the audience, but it's not like this is making it any better for me as the viewer either. I don't care.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, you're right about it. It's repetitive, right? Because they need to find different ways to do it if they're going to do this. They can't just do 2 out of 3 falls every single time, because then you're just going to fall into, every match is 2 out of 3 falls. The false finish was something different that was interesting. If you do a 6-man tag, like call the bell for disqualification and then turn it into a 6-man tag. That's a little bit different, but they're going to run out of ideas. I'm curious to see if they come up with anything new. I'm not quite over it yet. I get what they're trying to do. It's the idea of blurring the lines between a sporting event and sports entertainment. So a sporting event never actually has any action happening during the commercial break. When there's a commercial break, nothing's happening. And they're trying to be closer to a sporting event and less of sports entertainment. But I don't know how long you can do that for, because it's sports entertainment. Like, you're not going to all of a sudden become more of a sporting event. You're always going to be sports entertainment. That's why people watch it, because it's sports entertainment, not because it's a sporting event. So, and in between, like, whistles and stuff at sporting events, they're doing things. They're doing dance contests or giveaways. Are they going to start doing that, like with two wrestlers in the ring at the arena? Like, all of a sudden they're going to put music on and just have a little break at the arena or give away something? That'd be weird. Like, I don't know that they could do that. So I agree with you. It's getting old. I think I could probably deal with it for another week before I start pulling the little bit of hair I have out, because I'm hoping they come up with different ideas. It's kind of like the 24/7 title. The 24/7 title is still interesting because they're still doing new and different stuff with it. So it's interesting. But this commercial break thing, I feel like they're already running out of ideas. So I think it's going to get boring really soon.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things where they occasionally have like those, commercial breaks where they can still play a little bit of wrestling. And honestly, they should save those for big matches. And then the smaller matches
and they still do that.
that are less important, and I know it's all important, and I would agree with you because I'm always arguing about story and yada, yada, yada. But that being said, it's a television show, right? It needs commercial breaks because sponsors are paying for this and that and the other thing. So, you have to take commercial breaks. That's why we have a long history of long chin locks that last forever and ever and ever. You do the chin locks during the commercial break.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I was watching some old wrestling the other day. I was watching old Bash at the Beach with Randy Savage and Ric Flair, and even that being a pay-per-view, they were still doing like the long headlocks on the ground and the grappling on the ground, where it was obvious to theirs like, oh, there's like a little like 2-minute window here that we could be doing a commercial. It's almost like wrestlers were trained to, no matter what, have that in the story. That needs to be in the story because there needs to be a spot where we go to commercial for a few minutes. So, I mean, we're expecting it. What's the big deal? Just do it during, these commercials. And I don't care if you come back and show me this is what you missed during the commercial break. What? That's cool. Whatever. I had time to go pee and get a snack. I'm good.
So I remember via text message you were seeming kind of negative about the fact that the Street Profits were in the house on Monday night. How did you think they came across?
Okay, so I think they did well on the mic as usual, and I think they were fun, and I think the crowd was into them. I just don't understand this pattern of whoever wins the NXT championship, if you're not the Undisputed Era, you're immediately like vaulted to the main show. Like, it's interesting that the Viking Warriors or the Viking Experience or the War Raiders or the Viking Raiders or whatever the hell the name of they are today, they got pushed up and had to just drop the titles, and the people who took the titles for them are now pushed up. So we're essentially going to do the same thing all over again. And I have a problem with it, but then I talk myself out of it like Jimmy would, and I go, man, this is really going to help the tag division on the main roster.
Yeah.
And the tag division really needs some, validity to it, because we're having trouble where we're just meshing people together and trying to make tag teams. So I don't like them continually pushing people up, but in this instance, it worked. And I get why they're doing it, because they need it in the tag division. And I'm all about the tag division being, more front and center on either show.
I would concur with that. Speaking of tag teams, Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins had a match against Mike and Maria Kanellis.
That wasn't a match. That wasn't.
It
a
wasn't
match.
a match.
That
You're right.
was,
It
that
wasn't
was
a
a
match.
promo. That was a promo, and it was a match that it was a promo that was disguised as a match because they just came out to basically work in this Maria's pregnant angle to try to give Kanellis some kind of push or character. So now he's the sad husband, like the simple sad husband
The
that she's
abused,
like
the abused husband.
abused husband, which again, let's go back to what we talked about in the beginning. Something WWE normally wouldn't do, right? Like,
Sure.
talking about how he's not man enough, and the only one that could impregnate her is Becky Lynch because she's the only man.
It was a good line.
It's a good line.
Yeah.
It was a decent promo. I just I don't see where it's going. I like Kanellis. I liked him when he was on Impact. I think he's a good wrestler. I think he's a good character. I liked him when he was in Ring of Honor with the Kingdom, but I'm not digging whatever this character is right now with him and Maria. I'm kind of over Maria. I think that's what it is.
Well, do we? I
watched a lot of I watched a lot of her in on Impact. So
what I would say to you though is we will. I'm going to speak for you. We are going to collectively give it a pass. We're going to collectively give it a pass. And this is why I say this. Because if a lot of these, if not all of these decisions are being made by Heyman, he's doing interesting stuff. And he's doing enough that's keeping me interested. Like, every single time it would start to go a little bit downhill, something would come out of left field. And I'd be like, what? Mike and Maria Kanellis? Like, it was surprising to me. And I was almost refreshing. Maybe their characters aren't great. And I think they were always starting from behind when they first, came back to WWE. Or she came back to WWE and brought him. It was.
She came back and brought him. That's
yeah.
Oof.
She's an abusive wife. What can I say?
I do want to be careful about how much credit we give Heyman because we have no idea.
Yeah, true.
Are we to believe that Heyman came in and was like, all right, I'm in charge. Here's the entire script of Raw. This is exactly what we're going to do. Like, I see layers of, I bet you Heyman had some involvement in this promo. But I honestly I think those stories and the promos are getting better week after week, and Heyman just adds to that. Like, I don't know that he's doing it. I think he's just adding to the direction they're going, which is a good direction. Because Bischoff's not doing anything with SmackDown yet, and SmackDown was okay. I mean, it wasn't necessarily any better or worse than Raw, but Bischoff hasn't have any of his hands in it yet. So we can't really say that Heyman's in charge just yet, even though he was there and he had a good little sequence with the Street Profits too.
I guess.
Which he must be high on. That's going to be the interesting part. People that probably haven't gotten camera time, when they start like randomly get, like when the Street Profits, like maybe Heyman's all in on the Street Profits. Maybe Heyman's all in on Kanellis. It'd be interesting to see who starts popping up that wasn't on TV for a while that gets a shot now that these two guys maybe are speaking for.
I mean, he's got the skills to pay the bills, so why not put him on television? Like I said, we were excited. We were excited when Mike Kanellis came to WWE, and then he disappeared.
I just don't think they have anything for him, unfortunately. It's, similar to a lot of guys that are in WWE and they don't really have the right character. I mean, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is great at what he does, and the best thing they had for him was Stardust. And he kind of even made that work. It was weird. It was bizarre. It was kind of a version of Gold Dust that but he made it his own. but really they didn't have anything for him. So he asked to leave, he left, and he's making a huge name for himself. So it's just the opposite right now with Kanellis, that he made a decent name for himself someplace else, and now he's trying to come in, and again, they don't have anything for him. So you just have to kind of wait. And if you're willing to wait, something might come up. I mean, there's a guy named Bray Wyatt that I think he's finally, found gold. I mean, he always had a great character, but this one, he took it. They took time, and eventually, it's gonna pay off. But you gotta wait, because you can't always be the headliner. There's not enough space, not enough spots.
I'll tell you one that's not working for me, but I'm not saying that it's going badly, but it's just not working for me, is this whole Nikki Cross, Alexa Bliss stuff. I feel like I've outgrown it a little bit. Like, I think it was working for me at some point, and especially going into this week and having that whole Alexa Bliss gets beaten by Carmella in 2 seconds. First of all, that just doesn't seem believable to me. Even if you say, oh, it's a fluke or whatever, like, I don't know.
I tend to agree that it had its moments where I kept referring to kind of a Trish Stratus, Mickey James kind of infatuation that Nikki Cross had. They could still go down that road, but it seems like they've turned a different corner. And honestly, I think they made a huge mistake this week by having Bayley pin Nikki Cross. I don't quite understand that. Like, there was no need for that, because you had all this momentum behind Cross because she had beaten Bayley. The momentum behind the idea that why is it Nikki Cross in the match at Extreme Rules? Why is it Alexa Bliss? You could have built towards probably a decent triple threat, which could have turned into some weird thing where Nikki Cross actually wins the belt by maybe going behind Alexa Bliss's back or something in the match, or maybe this whole time Nikki Cross was playing Bliss. Like, they could have angled that differently, and this loss that she just took is just kind of weird. I didn't understand it really.
Yeah, it's for me, it's just, I don't know, and I still always have that issue with Nikki Cross that I've had forever, where she's still tiny, and
but Bliss is tiny.
She doesn't seem believable. I don't know that. But
do you think Alexa Bliss is believable?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen Alexa Bliss. She does a lot more like kind of heel that will do anything to win the match type of stuff, and that feels more believable in itself. It's like, if you're going to be that small, you better be athletic, and if you're not, you better be garbage. Like, you're just like trash of the earth. Like, I'm going to do whatever I have to win.
But I mean, Carmelo isn't exactly like super athletic, and she was the same thing. She was that heel that managed to win, and she held the title, for a little while. So I don't know. So we talked about this a little bit when we watched some of the women's matches, and we talked a little bit about the podcast last week. There's a small sampling of really good women's wrestlers, and then there's that giant middle group that really is not close to that top group. And it's tough to believe anybody other than that top group is good enough to be a champion, or good enough to carry a match, or believable, as you said, to win a match.
Where's Charlotte Flair?
It's tough. I can't, like, it's weird because normally when people are away, there's two reasons. They're hurt, or recovering from being hurt, or they don't have anything for them, so they're just keeping them off television because they don't have a storyline for them. How do you not have a storyline for Charlotte Flair? And I don't know that she's injured in any way. So I don't know. Why isn't she somewhere doing something with anyone? Like with Naomi or with Ember Moon, or I don't care, anybody. Like, the fact that she's not on TV at all. They're trying to repackage her? No, she's always going to be Charlotte Flair. did her and Andrade go on like a vacation? I know he had some family members pass away. Maybe she was spending time with him. I guess that's the only thing I could think about.
Another question is, where is Solo Asuka?
Where is tag team Asuka? And did they ever have that tag match they were supposed to have in Japan?
I cannot answer that question. I'm not sure.
I heard so here zero reference to that tag match in Japan. There was reference to if they win that match, they get a tag title match, and then nothing. Crickets. They never had the match, I think. So they started a storyline that they never actually followed through with, and now they're still not on TV.
Well, that's typical of WWE.
It's typical of the women's tag team titles.
They have tag team titles in the women division?
You wouldn't know it unless you watched, Ride Along or maybe some YouTube channel stuff. Like, they don't do it on the actual show. They don't wrestle.
Iconic.
They never wrestle. I'm still not buying it. They did it 1 week, right? 1 week we complained about it and said they need to win by cheating, and they did it, and then once again they're gone. But I don't know. At least they're listening to us about some people. Like the Revival. How about the Revival and these new characters that they're kind of building, like almost like these well-to-do rich guys. It's kind of Four Horsemen-esque. It's kind of Evolution, and then it's also kind of the Authority. Like, it's got a combination of all three of them.
Well, that should be right. That should be right up their alley anyway. I was definitely thinking Four Horsemen because of how much they love the Four Horsemen, how much they love like Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson in particular. They always talk so highly of those guys. So it makes sense that you would be a character that you would have based on some of your favorite characters, and that would be it. It's I think a lot easier, like, successful story writing when you do stuff like that, because to have a wrestler buy into a character that maybe they don't believe in initially, it's not to say they won't do it, because a good wrestler should do it, right? I think we talked about that with Velveteen Dream being critical of the fans sometimes and being like, a good performer is going to make an angle work. And I agree with that. That being said, it's a hell of a lot easier if you give them an angle they like.
Yeah, something they can really kind of dig into and enjoy and have a passion for. If you give the Revival hey, you're going to become the next Hardy Boys, I don't think they're really going to be into that. That's not who they are. But
you have any wrestlers?
We'll say something good.
You have any wrestlers that like you miss their like old gimmicks? Like, and by old gimmicks, I mean like maybe even a gimmick that wasn't so successful, but you just kind of miss it a little bit.
Remember Shark Boy?
Shark Boy. Yes, I do remember Shark Boy.
I don't know why, but randomly it popped in my head today. Today I'm thinking about like just older gimmicks that I'm like, what did I like when I was younger? What did I geek out about a little bit? And Shark Boy was one of the stupid ones, and I'm like, yeah, that was always funny. And he comes out and he holds the hand on his forehead like a fin, and he's doing, I don't even know what his finishing move is or anything, but he literally had a lucha mask on that looked like a giant, like Jaws mouth. It was open, like, but it'd be smiling almost. So yeah, that was a terrible gimmick, but I remember it fondly. It was funny.
You remember like old school ECW, like early ECW, like with Sandman, when Sandman was actually like a surfer?
No, actually.
No. Oh my god, dude, I'm telling you, it's very easy to find.
Have to be going on the network and find.
It's very easy to find because all you have to do is watch the first couple episodes of like ECW that they have on there, and before you know it, there's a promo for Sandman, and he's wearing like a wetsuit and he carries around like a surfboard and stuff like that. And for anybody who ever watched ECW and like Sandman was just like some crazy hardcore wrestler by the end of it all, it's like so so weird for him to be like sitting there like oh, hang 10 and like acting like a surfer. It's like, this is ridiculous but wonderful at the same time.
That's crazy. Yeah, whoever thought the guy with the kendo stick, the cigarette, and the beer would be would be a surfer boy before that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was younger, I used to always, having grown up through the Attitude Era and stuff like that, and watching all the old WWF, like I was always thought that beer was more synonymous with Stone Cold than any other wrestler. But after rediscovering ECW and watching so much of it, I definitely always think about Sandman popping open beers, drinking in the crowd with all the crazy Philly people.
Yeah, they've had a few run-ins, I think, with Stone Cold and Sandman. They've had almost like a beer drink-off, but Sandman definitely has the beer belly to show that he's probably the winner. He's got that old man body going, but
well, he is what we talked about when fits into that whole hardcore wrestler kind of category where it's like, is he the most athletic guy? No. Is he the strongest guy? No. But man, can he take a beating? And man, can he give a nasty looking beating?
Yeah.
And I love wrestling like that. I really do miss wrestling like that, even though it's not quite so safe for all the wrestlers that do it.
No, it's not safe at all for all those wrestlers that are going to do it. There's a lot of weird stunts going on in the independents right now that people are getting. There's this weird infatuation with getting on social media and getting likes or hits or whatever, but they're doing it by doing these crazy stunts, like jumping through 2 tables or glass or the fluorescent lights. And it's just, I remember the Hardy Boys back in the day showing videos of jumping off of crazy stuff and doing crazy moves, but there's so many objects now involved in these spots that wrestlers are doing that it's getting kind of nuts, and it someone's going to kill themselves or hurt themselves pretty badly. Lucha Underground, I think, had it they had the perfect amount of crazy, but not to the point where I thought someone was going to die. I thought someone was probably going to get hurt really bad.
I don't know about that. Whenever Phoenix and Mil Muertes would fight each other, I was like, somebody's dying.
No, but you know what I mean? They weren't hitting each other with fluorescent lights or objects. They were just doing crazy stuff that it was wow. Or when they're jumping off the top of the office or kicking out a ladder or throwing him down onto the coffin.
You clearly are totally forgetting about a match in Lucha Underground.
Which one did I forget?
Vampiro versus Pentagon.
Yeah.
Oh,
that one
they had fluorescence, and they were beating the hell out of you, and they were bleeding like crazy.
And I didn't like that match. I didn't like that match at all.
Guess what, Chris? Guess what? I love that match.
No, I don't.
That match was crazy.
There's a line sometimes, man, where it's gimmicky when you do stuff like that, and it's too much. Even the Moxley match when they were bringing out all the barbed wire stuff, it's I don't know.
It's definitely cringeworthy. It's definitely cringe.
Yeah,
cringeworthy.
What was cringe? I mean, so what about Randy Orton putting a screwdriver into Jeff Hardy's ear and twisting it? That was cringeworthy, right?
Well, it looked a lot. It definitely looked worse than it probably was. It probably didn't hurt at all.
No, but it still looked really bad, and it was interesting.
It's easy to get people to cringe though in the PG era. You do anything out of the ordinary. I mean, heck, Alexa Bliss could do it almost every time when how her joints are kind of weird, and she can make it look like she breaks her arm. I always love it when she does that too. It looks great.
You know who does it really well without any kind of extra objects or anything? Ricochet. Ricochet has this way of falling on his neck or just falling in general that makes it look like he's dead. He hits it perfectly. He got a brain buster from AJ Styles this week, and it was amazing looking. It was just a brain buster. It wasn't anything like crazy. It wasn't like a double flip or anything. It was a simple brain buster. But the way he compacted when he hit the mat, he sold it perfectly. And he's one of those wrestlers that's just really good at selling things. And he seems to be getting a decent push now. You know, obviously going up against AJ is going to be great for him and great for both of them.
Him and Phoenix, man, those brain busters. Oh god, that Phoenix brain buster though. Whew, from Double or Nothing. Oh my gosh.
It's such a simple move, but it looks terrible when someone hits it high on the neck. Just absolutely awful.
It's like they're devastated.
But, yeah, and there's been a couple of times in the last couple of weeks where it seems like guys are taking some pretty stiff shots. And I think that's just proof of people trying to go above and beyond right now because there's competition. And, you know, we said it. We were excited when AEW was going to come out because we thought it was going to push the envelope and force everybody to try a little bit harder. And we're seeing it. And it's only been, I don't know, a couple of months. So
I've got a question for you. Who is Aleister Black fighting at Extreme Rules?
So I unfortunately have ventured into the internet, and I know who everybody's saying it's going to be, and I don't get it. So there was a knock at his door, and nobody was there, and I loved it. I loved his whole promo right now about someone pick a fight with me. And I like the knock at the door, and the lights go out, and lights come back on, and there he is again. I thought maybe the lights going out would have something to do with whoever it was, which it still could. But it seems that they're looking at possibly Cesaro to be his opponent in Extreme Rules, which, again, I just don't quite get. I think it'll be a good match. I think both of them are great wrestlers, but I don't understand the storyline without getting into it of why Cesaro would pick a fight with Aleister Black other than putting two good wrestlers in the ring and hoping they make magic. I don't know. I could probably sit here and build a storyline around a Bray Wyatt that would make a lot of sense and be really entertaining, but I think we've talked about this on the podcast in the past. We kind of want to wait for that one. We'd like that to be like a bigger match, you know, a big four pay-per-view match, the nice build-up. But I just don't get Cesaro. I don't know, man. What are your thoughts on that idea, or if you had someone else in mind?
Well, I don't know that they've done a good enough job of setting up anybody that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, if you're trying, I mean, so I guess the counter question is, are you trying to set something up like some storyline where you have him going up against somebody dark or intimidating or unsuspecting, or like which avenue are you going down? Because there's a lot of people when you like, I'm scrolling through the wrestlers right now, and there's a lot of people that don't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. You know, the ones that jump out to me would be like Lars Sullivan, but I don't know that that's a good idea.
He's hurt.
Maybe
He's got a knee injury.
You know, a member of AOP. I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense.
See, you sound like you're a reach. You know what I mean? Like every one of them's a reach, right? Like you're creating. I mean, it's fine. I mean, you can create a storyline. I'd be more interested in them doing a throwback where he's out and he's waiting for whoever's picking a fight with him, and Velveteen Dream's music hits, and we have a revisiting of the Velveteen Dream and Aleister Black feud. Like, I'd be more interested in a pop like that. I just.
Do you do the not great method of bringing back somebody older to put over Aleister Black? Like, do you have somebody like Kane wrestle a match? Because I think that makes a lot of sense.
Ugh.
Well, I know, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good
Yeah.
thing, but it makes a lot of sense.
It does. It plays off the whole lights going out and the whole darkness, and it's almost like a passing of the torch, I guess.
I also could
Yeah.
see Matt Hardy.
Mm,
I also could see Randy Orton, especially.
Orton makes. I think him and Orton could have a good little feud, but I mean, there's very little reasoning other than Orton not liking a new kid coming in and talking smack about, who's going to pick a fight with him, which is fine. I mean, I just, you see what I mean about Cesaro though? I just don't get the Cesaro pick. Like, I feel like Cesaro was having a good feud with Ricochet and they kind of replaced him with AJ Styles. I'd rather see Cesaro go have a feud with Ali. Let's put Cesaro with one of these young guys that they can do a lot of different interesting stuff. And Black is one of those guys, but he's got this other layer to his character that it just, I don't know.
Mojo.
I guess because whatever Mojo's character is, that maybe it could actually turn into an actual character.
And then I think there's maybe two more. One which I really like, Luke Harper.
Oh, if only. I would, yeah, I'm all in on that.
I think
I
that
would
one.
love for them to give Luke Harper some time and not just waste his contract. He would be great with Aleister Black.
And then there's another one that created a confusing moment on SmackDown. Shelton Benjamin. That was kind of weird.
Hey, he got some TV time. And what he did with that TV time is never look at the camera and just make his eyeballs go around in circles. So, I mean, that's obvious what his character is.
So, I think that those two would be two of the more interesting ones. I think Shelton Benjamin as a first opponent for an Aleister Black that's been gone for a while makes sense. My only issue with it being Luke Harper is that I think the whole idea is to put Aleister Black over, and I want more from Luke Harper than to be that person.
Unfortunately, I think that's where Luke Harper's WWE career is at right now. He's either there to put somebody over or be part of a faction. So, I mean, if you have a way of maybe putting him in a faction with Aleister Black and building something towards him and Bray Wyatt, that could be interesting. I'm not into the Shelton Benjamin thing. I feel like Shelton Benjamin's kind of had his time and had his time again and again. I think he should be the guy just putting people over. I would only maybe buy Shelton Benjamin if you kind of did a throwback to, Kurt Angle, the Charlie Haas thing, but we've kind of long been past that now. I don't know. Mojo Riley makes sense. That's the one I think besides Luke Harper, that's the one that I could see them doing just because Mojo is kind of lost right now as a character. He doesn't have anywhere to go. He doesn't have anybody to feud with unless he goes back to Zack Ryder, and it'd be better if he just kind of moved on. He could probably still look strong and lose, which would be good for Aleister Black and good for Mojo. So I think that's the one I would make the most sense to me right now.
I think I have one more for you.
Hit me with it.
What if we're looking at this the wrong direction and he's actually there to put somebody else over?
Who?
What if Marty showed up at Extreme Rules?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I don't know. What do you want me to say? That'd be great.
I like to just live in a fantasy world here on the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast.
I mean, yeah. What if the Young Bucks just totally bailed on AEW and came back to have a tag match with the Usos at Extreme Rules?
Okay, that is a little bit more extreme than my example.
It is Extreme Rules.
Oh my gosh. You know what, man? One of these days we will be friends, by the way.
No, we'll never be friends. Not gonna happen.
Give us a like. Give us a like to the video if you think we'll be friends.
Oh, we haven't had a like yet, so we're obviously not going to be friends. All the likes we have
likes.
are just us.
That's
Let's
not
be honest.
us.
They're just us.
You're
all these fake accounts that Jimmy goes and makes. So Jimmy's going to go out and make some more fake accounts tonight to make sure that he can maybe be a friend, but it's not happening.
I don't even know why I do this podcast with you sometimes. You're so just cruel and unusual.
Loneliness.
Let's talk about a little AEW. Let's talk a little. You said the Young Bucks. Let's talk a little AEW.
Let's talk AEW.
We got Fight for the Fallen coming. We kind of discussed it last week where all of a sudden WWE is trying to compete. And their method of competing is throwing in an Evolve show onto the network, which has nothing necessarily to do with WWE. It's like an independent show, but they're putting it on at the same time.
Exactly the same time, yeah.
Kind of cringeworthy.
Well, how many times back in the day was Raw and Nitro on at the same time? And you managed to find a way to watch both.
Oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm not saying it's cringeworthy because they're both on at the same time. I'm saying it's cringeworthy because the AEW show has to do with like a really good cause, and then all of a sudden WWE's trying to pull viewers away from a show that's doing a lot of good.
What is the cause? I gotta be honest. I'm not familiar with what the cause is.
So Fight for the Fallen. I think it has to do with all the proceeds. I'm not sure if all the proceeds. You know what? Screw this. I'm gonna look it up because it's easier. I don't want to get this wrong for you. But I know the money's going to a good cause. I know it has to do with like fallen soldiers and stuff. Hence, Fight for the Fallen and stuff like that.
Gotcha. No, it's just it's nice because obviously WWE has a lot of good funding that they do with cancer and the kids, cancer surviving children and Connor's Cure, so obviously AEW jumping into something is going to be interesting. It's
AEW has stated that all of the event's proceeds will be donated to victims of gun violence. So it is for this really good cause, and then you have WWE coming in and like, we're going to put this Evolve show on. Okay, well, you doing something with the proceeds that you get from that? I mean, I know it's not your show, but if you're pulling people away, shouldn't you? That's why it's cringeworthy to me. It's not like, it's a TV show and we're going to have a TV show on at the same time and it's just us trying to make capital.
Let me pose a question. If Great Balls of Fire was donating part of the gate to Connor's Cure, which is perfectly plausible.
Sure.
And AEW had a Double or Nothing pay-per-view on at the same exact time at Great Balls of Fire, would you think AEW was being cringeworthy?
Yes.
What they were doing?
Yes. But the other side of that is I don't think that has AEW done anything where they've created a show to directly compete with the WWE show? Because I think that they're doing their own thing. And now WWE keeps doing reactionary moves based on their thing.
Well, it's
And that's fine. Again, I love the competition. It makes for good
yeah.
products. This is just a one-time thing where I'm kind of like, you got Extreme Rules the next night. Like, just chill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was coincidence or if it was a direct shot. It's I'm leaning more towards the direct shot, but I don't know. I don't have an issue with it at the moment. I'll see leading up to it, and it's close enough to us that I'm interested in it. Obviously, it's in Jacksonville.
No. You just want fish tacos.
I do want fish tacos. Oh man, what's the cat's food truck? Ooh, so good.
Those of you
So
in Jacksonville.
I do have an issue with the card that's getting put together for Fight for the Fallen right now. Some of it doesn't make any sense. So Fighter Fest ends, or one of the images towards the end is Cody getting smoked in the head with a chair by Sean Spears. And Sean Spears has no remorse, leaves, and MJF is seen in the ring consoling, Cody, which kind of makes little sense to me, only because I don't honestly watch a lot of the social media stuff that's posted, being elite, and I know that there's some promos in there for MJF that he's very pro Cody, but now they released the card, and Sean Spears is going to be in a 6-man tag match that puts him on the same team as MJF. So what are they doing there? And Steven, made a point in the text group that they have so many guys signed right now, they're not quite sure what to do with them. And I think he's right, but I think he just said it wrong. Does that make sense? So I think they have so many different characters right now that they're not focusing on what storyline each character needs to build towards in the beginning of this process. They obviously have the Young Bucks lined up with the Lucha Brothers. They obviously have Omega lined up with Moxley. And they have Jericho and what's his name? Hangman Page. So and Cody's kind of now lined up with Spears. But now they have to layer these mid-card guys in, and they don't quite know what to do with them. So they're putting them in these tag matches, 6-man tags, but you put two guys on one side that really don't make any sense. So I have an issue with that. It's very easy not to screw that up. Just don't put MJF in that match, or put him on the other side at least.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it's a misconception that somebody needs a match to continue to build their character. MJF is not really that incredible of a wrestler. I think we talked about this last week. But his mic skills are second to none in AEW right now. So do you really need to have him wrestle? Or do you just create an in-ring promo where he talks a lot of crap, and then maybe you have somebody attack him or somebody come out to set up his next match, but not actually have that match?
It concerns me, because this is what having wrestlers run their own promotion kind of leads to, where everybody's lobbying for time on the card and wants matches because they're all kind of part of it, right? They're all part of the company. They all have a say in it. Well, just because you're part of it, just because you want to be a big part of this company, doesn't necessarily mean you have to always have a match. And Joey Janela, who just had an amazing hardcore match with Moxley, he's not a guy who even was on the radar before this last pay-per-view, right? Like, he just kind of built his character independently. And he's a good case for just build your character independently. And when you get a shot like that, just take a good shot. You don't necessarily always have to be on the card, though. And I have a fear that I said this last time on the podcast. The Young Bucks are going to just consistently be doing their matches, and Omega is going to consistently be doing his matches, which are great, but they could get stale. It could just be the same 2-3 matches at the end of the card every single time we're watching AEW. And we're just going to go back and say, oh, they became WWE, they become WCW. Oh, well, it was a nice try.
Well, so here's the card as it sits right now. Brandy Rhodes versus Allie, which in the realm... I know. In the realm of women's matches, it's like, what is that match? Like, Allie didn't even look good at all on the last... in Fyter Fest. And then...
Yeah.
So how is this match... Are you going to convince me that this match is supposed to sell me on the women's division in AEW?
Which they have so many better women that they could put in that match.
Well,
they would prove
so
that
many,
was the last thing we just watched.
So many's a stretch. They have some that are better.
So many is usually like 6. That's what I was going for, but yeah.
I don't even think it's 6. Yeah, it might be like 4. Kenny Omega versus Cena. Sure. I think that would be a fine match.
That's a house show.
Yeah, the last one was a house show.
The minute you said that match, I'm like, this is a house show.
Yeah,
like Omega Cena is just it's like you said, it's a good match. It's a good match that you would see at a house show.
Yeah,
there's no story behind it.
Cody and Dustin Rhodes versus the Young Bucks. It's a house show.
Yeah, it's guys owning a part of a promotion, putting themselves over on that promotion.
Yeah. Adam Page versus Kip Sabian. Good match.
Good match.
Good match.
Good match. That could potentially be a really great match to watch.
Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, and Joey Janela versus MJF, Sammy Guevara, and Sean Spears.
That has all the recipe of a car wreck.
You know what, though?
Like,
it should be a car wreck. That would make it good.
Yeah.
Let it be a car wreck. Play that. Let that, if you know what, if you've dedicated yourself to that being the match, then let the story lead the match and let it be a car wreck.
See, but the problem is the car wreck is one-sided. Look at the 3 guys on one side of that match.
You've
Darby,
got
Havoc, and Janela are 3 very distinct types of wrestlers on one side.
Okay.
And then on the other side are not those 3 wrestlers. There are 3 completely different type of wrestlers on the other side of that match with Spears, MJF, and Guevara. Like, I don't see how they mesh.
Well, let's look at it from a personality standpoint. Okay? MJF kind of has aligned himself with Cody Rhodes and has heat with Sean Spears. Sean Spears has, so that side, right? And I can't speak much to Sammy Guevara. I'm not sure. But that side of it is broken within itself. Now, we could easily go over to the other side and say it's not necessarily that much better. I don't think Jimmy Havoc plays well with others. I don't think Darby Allin plays well with others. And I don't think Joey Janela plays well with others. So it could just be a car wreck.
Which is interesting. I could buy into it if this match starts as a 6-man tag, but becomes such a car wreck that they just say, you know what, every man for themselves, and they just turn it into whoever wins gets a title shot.
You know what this is? This is one of those moments where they listen to our podcast and then they do what we asked.
Yes. Listen to us. We know what we're talking about sometimes. Well, I do. Maybe not Jimmy.
Because look at who you have in the match, right? You have somebody who's got great mic skills in MJF. He sets the tone. You've got somebody in Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc and Joey Janela, really, that take bumps.
big bumps.
Big
Man,
bumps.
Those Darby bumps are crazy.
And you've got Shawn Spears, who, out of everybody, is the person who's probably getting the wrestling push.
Yeah. I would say he's the best wrestler in that match.
I think that it makes sense.
He could look strong coming out of that.
I think it makes sense to turn it into just a 6-way match. And just everything goes crazy, and you have Shawn Spears be the one who comes out on top.
And then Cody comes out to kind of face him, and that's leading into the next pay-per-view, right? Or the next storyline. Because they're obviously going to be the headline. Well, that's going to be the match Cody's going to have it all out, I would think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the right match to set up as well, you know? I mean, because All Out's going to have Adam Page versus Chris Jericho already for sure.
Yeah, and you got Moxley and Omega.
Yeah. So that right there, 3, I think, really great matches on paper.
Yeah, it could be interesting. But again, it depends on, is this just a throwaway? Is it just a house show throwaway match? Or are you going to actually use this to build towards your one of, I guess they'll probably have 2 big pay-per-views a year right now, is what we can call it. Because a lot of these other shows are just small to, house show pay-per-views.
I would argue that even though it's a house show, that there are moments where it's important to build the story, because without having a TV show, where else are you going to do it except for social media? So it is their opportunity for something that is televised for a lot of people to watch it and a lot of people to get on that page.
When is there going to be a television show for AEW?
I don't know if it's going to be right when WWE shifts to Fox or not. It very well could be close to then, though. So maybe in October, it's possible. I don't know if they actually, release that date or not. It's easy enough for me to look up, though.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with the television show, because we criticize Raw and SmackDown so much, but we are able to give kudos to AEW while they're having house shows instead of actually putting on, really big events. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see what kind of product they put together.
I'm sure, based on what we were talking about last week, that it is going to take a little bit for them they got to crawl before they can walk type of a deal, especially when it comes to production. They've been doing it so long that you have to believe that it takes a while. I don't know how many people that are involved with the television show, though, have worked in the business and for how long. Because it's one thing to have worked in the business as a wrestler, and it's another thing to have worked in the business like as a producer. So,
yeah,
as long as they've got the right people, and I'm sure they've got the right people around them, they're making of course they're going to have problems. And of course we need to make sure we're just as critical on those problems, especially us, that we're just as critical on those problems as we would be on WWE for their problems. I wasn't going to sit back, like, for instance, earlier when we were talking about the Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley stuff. I thought it was great, and I brought out the inner kid in me to a certain extent, but I still had to be like, they went a little overboard with the pyro. It exploded for a long time. I've got to be a little bit critical.
Kept going. It just kept going.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like all the power for the whole world is backstage.
But what they missed with that?
Oh, the power outage. We didn't talk about that. Yeah.
There was supposed to be like a power outage after that, you would think, right? Like you wouldn't have the Titantron working, right? Except it like immediately worked the next match.
Well, no. So here's what happened, right? The Viking Raiders come out, and all they've got is like a spotlight from across the arena, like shining on them. And so we were sold in text messages, oh my gosh, they're playing that, all the power's out, this is incredible. And like there was nothing on. We're like, oh my God, this is great. They need to do this the whole flipping night. And then, oh, here comes the New Day. Everything's working.
Yep. Which, again,
missed opportunity.
I'll go back to last week when I criticized AEW of not playing on the, hey, this Fighter Fest thing is a big mess. Everything's not the way it's supposed to be. We're out of money. They only did it for a little while. And same thing with WWE this week. They do the power is out because we went through the video board, and we going to have one wrestling group come out, and they're not going to have power, but we have to have the New Day have power because, yeah, they are a money maker. They make us a lot of merchandise sales. So, yeah, we got to have all their graphics up there. Put them up there.
Go ridiculous with it. Have them bring out like a crank generator, and they start that thing up, and it's really loud, and the Titantron starts working, and then the wrestlers get pissed, and they go over and they shut it off, and then everything turns off again.
You could have played. The thing is, you could have played that off so funny. You could have had like the New Day come out with streamers or like noise makers or something. Just be completely ridiculous with it. And they just didn't. They just gave up on it after the first commercial break, and they went to the hospital, and that's it. Moving on.
So projected starting date of October 2nd. And it'll be on from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Ooh, late night.
And it might actually be Wednesday.
That's gonna make for good television for the first 3 nights of the week, hopefully. And then you have all that NXT you can watch at any point after Wednesday.
Yeah, that's the thing that's confusing to me about that Evolve show. It's like, do they need to like put their foot down and say, okay, well, we're going to put the Evolve show on, but we're not going to do replays of it? Because if you put, Fight for the Fallen on and you put Evolve on, well, I'm just going to watch Fight for the Fallen because I can just get on the network later and watch Evolve, right?
Yeah.
It's
the good and the bad of the WWE network, right? The good of it is you want subscribers and you want to get people to buy it because then they can go watch things on demand. But the bad part about that is you can watch things on demand, and afterwards you don't have to watch them live. And we're pretty good about not getting spoilers. We can just basically avoid our text messages and the internet for a while and see the whole thing without having a miss Fight for the Fallen.
Exactly.
But we are talking about, let's put this in perspective. AEW is brand new. AEW is not anywhere near the size of what WWE is. They don't have the following the WWE has. So while we sit here and we have these conversations, this is us. This is like really big wrestling fans. This is not the general population. The general population knows about WWE. They don't even know about AEW yet. They will. But right now they're in their infant stage. So it's a long way to go.
Yeah, I think there's definitely certain stuff. And you probably are maybe starting to hear it, or maybe starting to see AEW shirts pop up here and there. I mean, heck, I was on their site the other day looking at all the different AEW shirts they had, because when I saw Cody wearing that Thronebreaker shirt, I was like, I wonder, I wonder if they got a Pentagon shirt. I'm like, oh, let me find that. You know what? They didn't. I didn't see one on there. So I was like, well, that's too bad. Missed opportunity. I'm a huge Pentagon fan.
Yeah. Took Jimmy's money from him. Seriously.
I know. I'm just giving it away. I need to give it away to buy Chuck a Baron Corbin t-shirt, though.
Maybe after Baron Corbin wins the Universal title, we can do that.
Yes.
That way Chuck could be a Universal champion.
Absolutely. He would be the king of the fan club, really.
That is the best case scenario for that match, I think they need to lose their belts.
It is not going to happen.
I know, but I'd be perfectly fine with Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin getting a run with those belts. It makes all the sense in the world leading up into a bigger pay-per-view to let the heels
Just
carry
flip-flop
that
it?
into the pay-per-view. Yeah.
I don't even think that that's bad writing. There's a lot of people
No.
that would argue, oh, don't flip-flop titles, but I don't even necessarily know that that's necessarily a bad thing if you do a good job of making the wrestlers look like that they're competitive, that everything's close. Then the fact that it flips back and forth becomes more of like a who gets the better of that person at any given time.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of your aspect of you don't always have to win to look strong.
Hell
So
no.
So I think it's the same idea. Let these people lose. They can lose the belts or get it back. I mean, how many times did Sasha Banks win and drop the belt over and over again? But I always thought she was a great wrestler, and I always thought she put on good promos. So she's another one. Where the hell is she? We need her back too.
This is true.
We need a lot of people back right now. It's the time. It's time for like all hands on deck for WWE, and they need to get their women's wrestling and their tag team wrestling under control, because it's obvious that AEW is not there yet for either. I mean, obviously they have the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers, which are two great tag teams, but that's not not a division. And I'll give it to VIP Party. I'll give it to was it Best Friends?
Best friends.
Best Friends.
The anti me and you tag team, right?
I know, seriously, not friends. They're building, some tag teams, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. They're building tag teams, and if WWE isn't careful, they're gonna have a better tag division than them. So, again, I'll go back to it. It probably makes sense that the profits are up now. We'll just see what they do with them going forward with their titles on NXT, and how much longer is it going to be before we see Undisputed Era just ruling all of NXT with all the belts.
So many of you may have noticed that just me and Chris tonight on the podcast. No Steven. No
Nope.
Chuck. No
Nope.
Nakamura. It's been forever since Nakamura's been on.
Nakamura has been banished to the land of third shift. So
Well, he needs to fix that, doesn't he?
he is a night owl now. Yes.
But I would love to. Earlier this week, Steven sent this very, very long text message just gabbing about all the things that he's enjoying. I'm going to read it. Loved Raw for the first time in a long time. Bobby and Strowman opening was a great way to kick the show off. The tag match turns into a 6-man was fine. Couldn't agree more. Fine. I like that. Fine.
It was fine.
Fine. I'm ready for Woods to get pushed on. Pushed on. That was very weird wording. Joe needs the damn title. I agree.
Yes. Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree, Steven.
Yes.
Joe needs the damn title. The club, if used right, will be amazing.
Agreed.
True. I think, although to be kind of a pain in the ass, Steven, anybody used right would be amazing. Generally speaking. On to the next part. I would have AJ win the U.S. and have him feud with Finn once he drops the IC, or have AJ lose the U.S. match at Extreme Rules and go after Finn. We talked about that.
We briefly talked about. Yeah.
The 24/7 title is a nice, fun change of pace. I feel like Elias needs to be pushed. He can fill the place of an early 2000s Triple H. Over the Shane Drew Taker Roman crap already. Yes. I agree, Steven. I'm definitely over it as well. We didn't even talk about tonight. It's awful. It's not even worth talking about.
It's not worth talking about.
Yeah. I love Seth, and you all know I love Becky, but I think it's time they drop the titles, then let them fight to get them back. So he's right on pace with you, man.
He's
are
on
you,
there. Yeah.
Are you guys friends? Am I the only one who's not friends with anybody?
Well, I mean, you don't have any friends. This is a true statement, but no, I'm not friends with Steven either.
Okay. Lacey can have a short run, and Baron Corbin needs the title at this point. I love Heyman being the boss. Nikki Cross is totally getting the title off of Bayley at some point. So, Steven, even though you were not here tonight, you were here in spirit and text message.
Represented. Steven has been represented by his texts.
Represented. I think he makes a lot of solid points. I think that the only thing we didn't talk about that's always worth talking about is that 24/7 title.
Yeah, and the 24/7 title obviously is going to continue to have interesting, fun storylines and always kind of play off R-Truth being just hilarious. I mean, he just plays that character perfectly.
Hilarious.
And then Maverick, I think, is doing a great job. It's interesting that he brought his wife into the fold. I mean, she is a professional wrestler as well. So I'm just wondering if this is leading into her becoming a bigger part of WWE. She doesn't really have great mic skills. I don't know how she is in the ring. I've never actually seen her wrestle. But Maverick's always been good, and we still keep seeing EC3. So EC3 is still getting that weird push where, you know, he got the 24/7 title. I could still see him turning on his buddy Maverick at some point. And we still haven't gotten Carmella rolling up Truth. So I hope we go back to that. So think about all the things we can still do with the 24/7 title, yet it's already changed hands like, I don't know, 13 times or something crazy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of storylines, good storylines, bad storylines, all storylines, it has come to the time in this educational program where we speak each of a storyline that we wish was happening in WWE today. So, Chris, what do you want to see moving forward? What needs to happen?
So I'm gonna always go and give love to the tag teams because I love tag team wrestling, and I want to see the Revival continue to build off of this Four Horsemen-esque characters that they've kind of personified here with the belts, and let's bring in the Prophets. Let's bring in any other tag team that could be interesting to start feuding with the Revival, but letting the Revival continue to win. That's important right now. I know you always have said you don't have to win to look strong, but I think it's important right now for the Revival to continue to win with this character they have right now, to be untouchable almost, to the point where I think we're going to see the Undisputed Era actually come up as faces. And at that point, I think that's when we can see the Revival drop the belts. It's going to be a little bit of a slow roll to get there. But if you do it right, the Revival can cheat to win sometimes, win strongly other times, but continue to build those characters. And then eventually they'll talk smack on the mics and say, we're unbeatable. Nobody could touch us. Everybody has tried to, but no one can. And that's when the Undisputed Era can make their appearance and take those titles from them.
Yeah. And to clarify my position, when I talk about winning and losing, what I mean to always say is, you don't have to win to look strong. Looking strong isn't necessarily have anything to do with character, and sometimes winning for character's sake is very, very important. Like to win and win and win and win. Like that's like would be the example of like, why is Kofi Kingston who he is right now? Because he won and he won and he won and he won, and it was important for the character and the story of his character. And I would assume that they would do the same thing with Ali at some point. They're definitely building towards it.
Yeah.
But making yourself look strong or look scrappy or anything like that in a match, you definitely don't have to win. You can definitely look strong and still lose. That's why the one thing AEW really has going for them is those time-limited matches. And I know they do that a lot in New Japan, and they carry those over into AEW, and that is a great way of making somebody look strong because of the whole Rocky effect. Can he go the whole time? Can Darby Allin go the whole time? And he did.
Yep.
And so it makes him look strong. It's a very cool thing that AEW does right that, don't even be ashamed to take that WWE. Just take it. So what do you think an Iron Man match is? Why aren't you doing them anymore? Problem is they'd have to integrate timeouts into an Iron Man match and do a timeout after every pinfall so that they could take a commercial break.
Jeez. There'd be a lot of commercial breaks.
I can't remember week to week what the hell I asked for at this segment of the show. And so I might have asked for this last week, and if I did, I apologize. But it's important. It's important.
Ask for it again. Yeah.
The women's division they've got a lot of ammunition, and they need to use it. I'm not opposed to what's going on in the women's division right now. I think it's fine. I think Becky comes across as strong, and Lacey comes across as strong, and Bayley comes across as strong, and even sometimes Nikki comes across as strong. Well, not really, but not for me. But I don't know. Maybe for all of you. Who knows? But again, it was refreshing to see Ember Moon on the show this week. It's been a while. And those are these talented wrestlers that you have out there, these singles women's wrestlers that are really good. So we were talking about Asuka and Kairi Sane as a tag team, but even just individually, where are they? They're good wrestlers. They need to be in the fold right now. Charlotte needs to be in the fold right now because the division's always going to be better with them. And it's funny because we'll get to the point where we're almost complaining about some of these wrestlers and we get sick of the storylines and stuff, and then they leave for just a little bit and we're like, oh man, where is she? We miss her.
We miss them.
Yeah. Because they are that good. And they're that good at being a heel that you legitimately just you almost really hate her by the time she leaves, and then, oh, Charlotte, where are you? We miss you. You're a good wrestler. You're a good character. So I want to see some of these women come back, and quite honestly, if there are women that I'm never going to see again, and I know that this is never going to happen, but if there's women that I'm never going to see again in WWE, just let them go. Just let them go.
Yeah.
Sasha Banks.
Give them the opportunity.
Sasha Banks. If Sasha Banks never wrestled in WWE again and she went to AEW, that'd be so good for AEW.
Wow. Yeah. She would run that division. Yeah.
So I want to see some love to the women's division, especially on the top end of building that next little tier down of the challengers, the next set of challengers. And on a side note, there's still kind of this weird Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville kind of affection stuff going on. It's a very weird storyline.
It's the storyline that they were writing for Bayley and Sasha that seemed like they bailed on, and now they're coming back to it, but using Sonya Deville's popularity in the community, in the gay community.
And again,
use that a little bit.
I said this. I think I said this last week, but I'm double downing on it. I really think they're trying. They're like, how can we make these characters? I guess make these characters gay without making it like a farce or something that seems
Forced.
disingenuous. Like they want it to make it seem like it's genuine, so that they can almost say that, oh, we're WWE and we're very inclusive, because that's just something WWE does, right? They try to be the moral compass of the wrestling world.
Right.
So it's an interesting game you have to play, though, because you have AEW forcing you outside of that moral compass, and then you're also trying to stay in it. And this is usually where I would go on my rant about it's wrestling, it's fake. Who cares if you're offensive? Who cares? Like, go for it and just keep yourself dedicated to it. So if you want it to be genuine, then dedicate yourself to it and don't make jokes about it when you're doing that, but continue to just do whatever you're doing on the other end. Like, and if people are critical and say, well, I don't understand, you treat this topic so seriously, but then you mock that. It's like, well, but it's fiction. That's what fiction is. You're allowed to mock stuff, but you can always speak to truths, right?
Layered truths. Yep.
Exactly. So, I don't know. But what do I know? I'm just a guy who watches too much wrestling. Yeah. and by October, it's only going to get worse. So.
Yeah. It's going to be bad.
Here we are.
Sleeping on the couch.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for us today. If you liked what you heard, give us a like. If you didn't like what you heard, give us a big old thumbs down. Comment if you want to say anything. Subscribe if you haven't already.
Speak up already. Speak up.
I'm Big Baby Jimmy. That's Mr. Christopher.
Yeah, still just Christopher.
Still just Christopher. Christopher. And that's all. That's been our time. Have a good one, guys.
America.